Hey guys, Bird Brothers here, two brothers in Ohio. This is episode 8, Lifelong Eagles fans. Today we're going to be breaking down our two biggest concerns for the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. We're also going to attempt to project the starting linebackers for this year. So we'll start with you, Ryan. If you want, we'll go back and forth. You share your first big concern, I'll share mine. Okay. And then we'll go back to you and we'll start there.
All right. So I went back and forth on a few things. I have a few concerns. I have more than two, but we're just going with the two biggest. It's Gannon and the defense. I don't love the bend but don't break, especially now that we have a solidified secondary, at least the corners. So I don't like the bend but don't break because we broke a lot last season where we would just it drives me nuts where it's 3rd and 13 and our D line was getting pressure and made a few good plays, and then our corners are 14 yards off the ball, or the guy runs he runs a comeback right at the marker and our corner doesn't get there. Like, it drives me nuts. So that kind of concerns me that we're going to continue with that soft play, especially with the addition of Reddick. I think he's still listed. He's going to be listed as a linebacker, and we'll talk about those later, linebacker stuff, but I think he'll be listed as a starting linebacker if you go look at the depth chart. Obviously he'd be a pass rusher. I don't think we're going to see him off ball unless it's, some, weird quirky blitz they put together. But yeah, that's my first concern is Gannon, and his scheme. Will it fit? I think we have, especially if Dean can get healthy and Dean can play, I think we're going to have a lot of athleticism at linebacker. So I think it's going to really help us just be a little more aggressive and, have our corners play up a little bit and, not give up so much little stuff and then hope we hold up in the red zone. So that's my first concern there.
Yeah, that crossed my mind too. And just to comment on what you said, I was watching when Gannon met with the media this year, and they were talking about and of course they're not tipping their hand, right? They don't tell you anything that's useful. Why would they?
Right.
So reporters are trying to get, useful information. It's like it gives the Eagles no advantage to share it. So Gannon was like, they asked him if the defense was going to look different this year. If because of some of the personnel that's here now, is he going to be able to do some more things that maybe he couldn't do last year? And he said, no, I think we pretty much did what we wanted to do last year. And, this, that, the other. And I'm thinking yeah, you better have some shit you're going to be doing different.
I hope you didn't think we did great.
What, what, dude, I'm not real down on the defense.
I don't.
Statistically, I think we were 10th.
I don't think we were bad, but it just drove me nuts that we were giving up. I can countless times on 3rd and longs, especially where we don't need to be doing that. Just send some pressure or just drop back into, drop everybody back, but don't drop back 15 yards when they need 13. It drove me nuts how many times you see that. Or we'll bring 3 down linemen. And it's man, we're not going to get pressure. They're going to have all day. Our corners are going to get tired. Just at least bring 5 people, you don't need to load the box, but I liked our defense. I want to see more pass, some pass rush. I think obviously adding Reddick will be, a huge help. He's got 23.5 sacks in the last 2 seasons. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big help. Hopefully Barnett, can actually, contribute. I think Josh Sweat's going to probably take a leap, and then having Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox in the middle doesn't hurt,
Yeah.
2 guys, they're not going to push.
Yeah. Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about the linebackers later, but Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
He's our best blitzing projecting from college. He can blitz up the middle. So that's going to be a fun weapon to see him use. And I don't know. So we'll see. So I'd say my first biggest concern, and and there's obvious for the Eagles, there's a big obvious glaring concern. Yeah. And I didn't want to talk about that because we've mentioned it in other videos and still might talk about it a little bit. But I think we've kind of talked about Jalen Hurts enough.
Yeah.
So I would put my number one concern for me, outside of how Jalen performs and if he can progress, of course, that's a huge part. But my biggest concern is the play calling on offense. So yours is the Gannon and the defense. Mine is, and I like Nick Sirianni. I have no reason to not believe in him. And I saw him adjust really well when what he was trying to do wasn't working. He adjusted. I just hope it doesn't take him 4 games to find out that they
So,
don't have Peyton Manning at quarterback.
right.
They're
So
not.
I don't want to cut you off, but so I actually I talked about this because I was curious as well. Like I did a little research on it. So last year when we did the switch, about midway through the season, Shane Steichen took over as basically the main play caller. They called it shared, but for the most part, it seemed like he was the guy. And then not that long ago, he's been announced as the main play caller. So Sirianni is not going to be calling plays, which I think is huge because we saw the switch, and then you find out later. We found out in the offseason that Steichen took over. And if I think I'm saying his name right. I think it's Steichen.
Yeah, that's how I've heard it said.
So I have confidence in that, knowing that, like, because that was when I was doing research to see kind of like I had like 4 or 5 things written down on what my biggest, complaint or fear was for this team. And then when I realized that Steichen took over, I was like, okay, well, he took over right when we started running the football. So I think maybe Sirianni, like, I get he was trying to just, I think he was just a young coach, modern game. He's trying to get in the past, but you got to work with what you have. So maybe Steichen's, going to be better at that. We have to lean on the line, man. We showed how dominant we were with the running game. It's going to happen again. They're not going to stop that line. It's just not going to happen. I'm not like trying to be cocky, but it's just, realistic. Like,
You hear that, Cowboys fans?
yeah, they really won't though. Like, there's not a defensive line where I'm like, oh, they're going to stuff. Like, we're not going to run at all. And if they do, then they're loading the box, which will open up things for Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. But if they're not loading the box, we're going to run all day on people. I'm not saying we're going to have one running back with, Derrick Henry numbers, but
No.
I think between Sanders, Gainwell, Boston Scott, like, I think we'll put up solid rushing numbers provided we stick to it. So, but
then you got to account for Jalen.
Yeah,
pulling the ball out and coming off the edge and mixing the running game.
He was like, it was a quiet 700 yards too. Like I when I saw it, I was like, man, like I knew he ran. Like I remember him taking off a lot, but 700 yards is no joke. No. 10 rushing touchdowns. So just obviously we got to bump up the passing stuff, but that's as long as it doesn't become like you get trigger happy with it, then it's obviously.
I don't even, and you probably mean this, like when you say pump up the passing stats, like I don't even care about the stats. Like I do because it's one like way to measure it, but can he function? Like when they try to load the box, take away the run, can he read defenses, throw the ball on time? Can the offense run adequately? Can you distribute the ball? Can we have two facets to our offense? Not just running,
right?
Can you pass? Like I don't need him to throw for a bunch. I don't need him to.
No, he doesn't need to go crazy. We don't need monster numbers, but I think if he does the things that you're talking about, then his stats are gonna, compared to last year, they're gonna skyrocket. I mean, he'll hit the 4,000 yard mark, 25-ish, probably to 25 to 28. I think is what I projected. I think he's got to increase it. I mean, if we stay at that same level, then we know, okay, that's what he has. He's going to be a good backup. Maybe eventually projected as a starter, but
maybe he's a starter for somebody. But if he doesn't progress, he's a middle of the road starter. That's like not a guy you're
not building a team around. You're not gonna build a team around him, which if you're not doing that, then there's no point, especially with the team we have. I think we're pretty well set for, a few years. We're young. We have some stud talent. Like we can't waste time trying to see, how long, it's going to take to develop Jalen Hurts. So
I don't know how much I don't know, like, I don't put a whole lot of stock in the whole play caller switched thing.
Yeah.
Because my perspective on it is like the head coach is the head coach. He might have not been calling the plays, but it's not the offensive coordinator doesn't get to completely change the offense. He runs the head coach's offense. He calls
Right.
plays, but it's the head coach's offense. So I think Sirianni is more responsible for shifting and making that adjustment than
Yeah.
the coordinator. But that's why I'm still concerned about it. I can just see them coming out trying to pass. Just to be clear, if people don't understand my concern, like I'm concerned they're going to come out, pass, leave the running game in the dust, get their butts kicked, start off, not as good as they wanted to. Then they start running the ball. And it's like, oh, you didn't know that your strong suit's running the ball. I know you want to be a great passer. But it's like, dude, if you're a pitcher and you throw the ball 99 and people can't hit you, but you want to be like a Greg Maddux type, you want to like throw a change up, you want to throw a knuckleball. It's like, dude, just throw the fastball. Like you're great at running the ball, run the ball.
Yeah.
Run the ball. Let your quarterback develop.
We're great at running the ball because of Jalen Hurts, because he is a threat. So the whole read option stuff works because it's a threat. If Tom Brady runs the read option and he's not running RPO, there's no threat for him to take off. So
I think we're more of a great running team, more because of the offensive line.
Yeah, for sure.
Jalen is like an icing on the cake.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree. It does scare me a little bit. I'm putting a little more stock, I think, in the Steichen thing. Just because there's a reason, like, I feel like if it was Sirianni who was like, all right, let's start running the ball. And then like Steichen, quietly took over or whatever, however it happened. Because they still just say, oh, it was a group effort last year. They don't give anyone, credit for it. But even if it was like done that way and Steichen actually did take over, I just feel like I have more confidence in that, because otherwise, why would they come out publicly and name Steichen the play caller? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's just going to stay the same? It's a group effort, and Steichen really wasn't the reason that they had success in the running game. Then there's no sense in coming out and saying he's our play caller, because it's just putting like a target on your back. I feel like you're just like, yeah, this guy's our play caller. Like if he didn't do anything, he hasn't done anything. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, all right, here we go again. We did great last year, and Sirianni called the plays. So
yeah,
that's kind of how I feel about it. And hopefully I'm right. Hopefully Steichen likes to run the ball, and realizes what he has and doesn't have in Jalen. But that's actually my second is just Jalen. We know he can lead. We know he can run. We know what he can do based off of just obviously last year alone. But he has more weapons now. Hopefully a healthier team, a better defense behind him, and a year under his belt and a year under the belt of the coaching staff. So, but we talked about last week, the thing that concerns me with the AJ Brown is Jalen was like bottom of the league, if not dead last, and throwing to the middle of the field as far as like percentages of completion and percentages of like how often, like attempts. And that's where AJ Brown, makes his money. So
we could say, hey, well, AJ Brown, that's where he makes his money. So that's going to help Jalen's biggest weakness.
Right.
Could be the guys he was throwing to, right? They weren't being open.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because last year, that guy was Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
This year, it's AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. It's like, even like Rager's got a ton of athletic ability. But when you got a guy out there like AJ Brown who can execute, and and he's done it, and he'll beat his guy more often than not, and he'll out physical his guy, you're so much more confident.
Oh yeah,
ripping that ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than anybody else.
Dude, and I'm like talking about like Quez Walker. Like I'm pumped that he went through a whole offseason. We added Zach Pascal, who's like a pretty solid receiver. He's not like, he's not going to be a number one or number two, but solid guy. And Quez so far is still listed as our number 3. Like he's going to be our slot guy, or, Devontae might move the slot a lot, whatever, but he's going to be our number 3 guy. And I'm pumped about that because we saw what he did. Like, I just remember that screen they threw to him. And he just, like, guys had angles on him, and it didn't matter. Like, he just I'm not gonna call it Tyreek Hill speed, but it's fast, man. Like, ridiculously fast.
Enough to be concerned about.
Yeah, fast enough to play, to keep that job. So,
Fast enough to stretch the field.
yeah,
Take the safety off, take the top off the defense.
yep.
You got to cover AJ Brown, Devontae Smith.
And it's gonna be hard to cover, especially with healthy Goddard, and hopefully Tyree Jackson gets back, beginning of the season at some point. So I mean, I'd like to see what he has, but
I gotta go to a real game this year, man. But my wife Kiara, for my birthday, which was July 21st, she got me tickets to the preseason game versus the Browns up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So next month. So probably won't see many starters, but it'll be cool to.
Yeah, for sure. It's still cool, man.
Dog pound. Hopefully, I don't get jumped with me and my kids.
Yeah.
What?
I said, yeah, the dog pound. That, man, I like living in Ohio. I'll root for the Bengals. I'll root for the Browns because a lot of people we know and like we grew up around are Bengals, Browns fans. And God, that organization is just like, it seemed like they were just like moving in the right direction, and it's just like train wreck. Like, it's like, let's sign Deshaun Watson and let's guarantee all of it. And we don't know if he's going to play. And then while we're paying, like they're paying Baker, Josh Dobbs, and Jacoby Brissett like almost $40 million this year. And it's just, and they're only paying Deshaun Watson $1 million, but like, it seems like it's going in a train wreck. Best case scenario, Deshaun Watson is like, from what I'm seeing, I don't know if it's even official. Maybe they announced it. I saw 6 games, but yeah, but not to get off track, but it's unfortunate. But then the Bengals, had a miracle season last year. So
they had a great year, but they're cheap, man. The way the guy runs the organization, same way the Cincinnati Reds, cheap, and it's hard
for me. They draft all these guys. They're gonna have to sign contracts right around the same time, like for and like it's gonna be tough, but hopefully they can get together. Yeah,
love Burrow.
Crazy, man. But
it was a cucumber.
Yeah, no, that's mine. Mine's Jalen Hurts. I think it's an obvious one. I tried to. There were 2 other ones, but I think the biggest one for me is Jalen. Because I think with athleticism will hold up, but I don't know. It scares me if he can't make the throws, then we're just all this talent for nothing.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hopeful. That I think it's very hard. You just don't see very many quarterbacks develop. I think he will develop. I think he will take a step forward. I don't know what his ceiling is.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty confident he's going to have some marked improvement.
Yeah.
We'll see if it's enough, for the Eagles to stay out of the quarterback field this coming year.
Yeah.
We shall see. But yeah, Hurts is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
So my second concern that I listed was depth at the cornerback position, because I'm really excited. Best starting corners we've had in a long time. Best corners in the NFC East, probably the best corners in the NFC, perhaps in the league. I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but they're a very good group of corners. And I'm talking about Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox. Those are great corners. So, I mean, if Bradbury, for example, goes down a couple games, or Slay and Bradbury go down,
yeah,
both come out of the game. I mean, we've got Zach McPherson would probably be the top guy up, and then like maybe Tay Gowan.
Yeah.
Some athletic guys. We got those rookies, Mario Goodrich, Josh Jobe. Don't really know. Those are kind of wild cards. couple other guys. We got like 13 corners on our roster. I think. But that would be mine. Just depth at corner. Cowboys have a great group of receivers. The Redskins have a great group of receivers. The Giants, who I rated last in our division, they have a pretty good group of receivers.
Yeah.
What's their big guy's name from Detroit? Their big wide receiver, Galladay.
Oh yeah, Kenny Galladay.
And then Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
And then they drafted a guy last year. They drafted a guy this year.
Yeah, Tony.
What'd you say?
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney last year, and then this year they drafted the guy from Whop Fillard or something from Indiana. Kind of a twitchy, kind of like a Rondell Moore, type of player. So that would be my big concern is hopefully the corners stay healthy.
Yeah.
Because,
well, I think they're more likely to. I mean, I think if you're not playing that press and your face all game, I think they're more likely. Like we do play the Gannon, what we did last year, like the Gannon bend, don't break type style. I think you're less likely to injure. It's less physical. It's more react, and it's not like in your face physical. So hopefully we can stay healthy there.
Something I want to mention about that, man. Steve Nelson played really, really well last year. He was not a liability. He was very solid. Last year was probably some of the best cornerback play we've had in years with Slay and Steve Nelson. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty solid last year. I think like the Super Bowl year we played pretty solid. With just, constant injuries and guys filling in. And in the playoffs, they just, Crevon LeBlanc would step in and guard guy like hasn't seen the field in 3 months, and he comes in and locks down a number one like in the playoffs. So yeah, I would say last year, as far as like confidence, as going into a game, I had a lot of confidence last year in our corners. Not so much, I mean, their ability is what I'm having confidence in, not the scheme, because the scheme kind of, I think it's like signing, when we signed Nnamdi Osman, we played him off the ball in the zone. When we saw him, his entire career was just press in your face, use his length. But yeah, no, I agree. I think last year was pretty solid. I don't know how we did statistically as that, but
I could be wrong, but there's some major categories where we were ranked pretty well, like 10th, 12th, top half of the league. It might have been total yards, might have been total like scoring defense, not turning the ball over and scoring, but allowing the fewest points. I forget. So I should have looked that up, but there were some things that we did kind of well. And then you got to ask, like, if you're going out, and I know it's a silly example, but if we're going out to play in flag football tournament and it's 5-on-5 and we're 5'9", 5'8", 5'7", 5'11", and they got 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", quarterback 6'6".
Right.
No, and this is like 5-on-5 basically, or 7-on-7 type of play. What do you want to do? Do you want to lock them down man to man? And what I'm saying is, like, if last year our defensive backs, for the most part, like Nelson, he played good in the zone. He played good fundamental sound football. But maybe if you put him in man to man, he gets toasted.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the personnel to play man or to play press, what do you want to do? Like, you got to be honest with yourself. Maybe that's what Gannon did. Like, listen, we don't have the personnel. Like, these are the best wide receivers in the world.
Right.
Like, we're not going to put them in a position where they can't succeed.
Right.
So I'm hoping this year we'll see a big difference, and I want to see a little bit more aggression, of course, but also I'm interested to see, even when we play off, how much better does Bradbury like tighten up a zone? How much better does he kind of like blend in with the other zones, and how much can we tighten that zone coverage just by adding a guy like that?
Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna be interesting. So just to recap that real quick, our top concerns, Ryan mentioned Gannon and the defense, just from an overall scheme perspective. I mentioned play calling on offense, them trying to, pass the ball, them trying to be the greatest show on turf and being stubborn about how they want to win. That's
Right.
my concern. Ryan's second concerning list was Hurts developing as a passer. And then mine was the depth at the cornerback position. Because after, and maybe Zach McPherson's ready. Maybe he's been on the team for 2 years. He's not a rookie.
Yeah.
So,
and
he
on the team.
did some plays in the preseason.
Yeah, he's doing something right. And that's how I was the guy. Like, I'm not expecting you to come in and beat Slay out for his job. It's not, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But he's still on the team. We're not hearing bad things about him. We're not, so he's doing something right. He's still young, 2 years under his belt. So yeah, I definitely think, there's a reason. Like Josh Jobe and the guys you just take flyers on because they're at big schools and they started for 3 years at, whatever, Bama. Like, I'm completely fine with that. A late round pick, undrafted free agents, go to these big schools and sign these guys. There's a reason, especially these guys that played 3 years or 4 years at Bama, Clemson, like played at these big schools and played. They have a lot of playing under their belt. There's a reason for it. So maybe they just couldn't put it all together. Who knows why they weren't looked at as a bigger prospect. But yeah, I think Gowan and McPherson would be able to step in and, at least keep us afloat.
Play the same defense we played last year.
Yeah, just keep us afloat. Don't try to jump anything and don't get burnt deep, and you'll be fine. Just, give up underneath and let your defense, their linebackers and stuff help you. But yeah. Let's
transition into that. So projecting the starting linebackers. So we'll define this as, weak side linebacker, middle linebacker, and the Sam linebacker. This just to identify for everybody. The Sam linebacker is more of the rusher. It's more Hassan Reddick. His backup projects to be Kyron Johnson and Patrick Johnson. Just linebackers who, they might occasionally drop just to keep you honest, but they're mostly going to be rushing the passer. Yeah. So really, I'm focusing on the other two spots, though, the weak side linebacker and the middle linebacker. So who do you project there? And then are you projecting that for the first week? Are you projecting this to be the outcome halfway through the year?
Yeah.
What are you projecting? And then what do you want to see?
So I'm projecting, I did a little bit of research on Dean. I know he's still got, if you go to the depth chart, he's got a little, the typical red cross, red box, white cross that we see, pretty often on the Eagles depth chart all over the place. But it's still on there for Dean. But everything I'm reading is just, it's like knick-knack. He's still participating in non-contact. What's not doing contact, but everything non-contact. He's participating. He's still doing drills. It's just like I guess like if we played a game today, he might not play. And that's at least what I'm reading. I don't know if that's fact, but so my projections would be for running downs, Edwards at the middle, and then Dean at the weak side. And then for passing downs, I'd go Dean middle and then Kazir White on the weak side. And then I think it's obvious Hassan Reddick's going to be the Sam. That's what goes without saying.
I like Kyron Johnson, though.
Yeah, but it's Hassan Reddick.
I know, I'm kidding. But for those of you who don't know, Kyron Johnson ran a 4.4 flat as a linebacker.
Yeah.
And he bowled over the first-round draft pick at the Senior Bowl. He's got some twitch, some speed, some athleticism. He's extremely confident. He was a sixth-round pick from Kansas. I don't know. I just like him. So I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I'm such a football nerd. Like, I'm actually getting more excited thinking about this preseason game up in Cleveland because I want to see, we won't get off in the weeds, but I want to see Davion Taylor.
Yeah, you get to see all the players that you don't see. Yeah.
I want to see Carson Strong.
Yeah.
Quarterback. I want to see a lot of these guys. Kyron Johnson. 6th-round pick, the Grant Caltera,
Yeah.
because Mario Goodrich, Josh Jobe, I want to see, like, do any of these guys make a splash play? Because like you said, Goodrich is from Clemson, Jobe is from Alabama. Goodrich he's an interesting prospect to me because he's more of a zone guy. He ran a slow 40, but it's like, so imagine this. Imagine in the young man's mindset, trying to be a tough guy, got a nagging injury, doesn't want to miss out on the 40. He says, no, I'm going to go ahead and run it.
Yeah.
Stubborn, maybe stupid, runs a slow 40. We don't know. Like, did he have something going on? Why did he run a 4.6? Is he a 4.6 guy or is he a 4.4 guy? And he's, just stoic about it and didn't say, well, I'm hurt. So my point is, you just never know. Guys can emerge, guys can make flash plays. And it's like, whoa, sometimes when you get in camp, that's where the fans don't know yet, but the players know. The players recognize guys like that. So we might have one. We might have one here. We'll see.
So going back to that, so that's what I think will happen. Well, that's what I want to happen. And if Dean stays healthy, but I could also see, week 1, they say Dean's not ready to go. Week 2, he's not ready to go. So maybe
I would be bothered if sometimes the Eagles can string those things along.
Yeah, where it's 2, 3, 4 weeks. He's day
by day. Day by day.
So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw, TJ Edwards, Kazir White, Davion Taylor just kind of cycling while Dean, it misses a couple weeks. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Edwards and White. But
has he had surgery or anything?
I think he had a pectoral surgery last year.
Oh yeah. Because they said his injury didn't need surgery.
He might not. I just heard him talking about a pectoral, like that's why a lot of teams kind of wrote him off. But
there was one time I was watching Birds 365, and they had an interview on there, and the guy, I haven't really been watching because I was watching more around the draft, but they had a guy on there talking about Dean post draft, and he didn't say what it was, but he said, well, it's something else that kind of was a big concern for the teams. And, Johnny Mack and John McMullen, they didn't even, I don't know if they knew or they didn't act like they knew or they didn't speak on it. There was something that they didn't speak on. And then maybe it's been talked about since, and I don't know because I haven't been following, but there was something, it wasn't the Peck thing. It was like something else about him that some organizations didn't like. So I still don't know what that was, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you projecting again?
So we'll go what I think Dean, I'm guessing week 1 will come around just based off the Eagles' history, and Dean won't be ready to go. I'll just, I don't know, throw a prediction. I'll say Dean will be ready by like week 3, just in typical Eagles fashion. So I'll say Edwards and White will probably be our day 1 starters with some Davion mixed in, Reddick, all that stuff. But and then, week 3, I think eventually, hopefully by like week 6 at the latest, it'll be Edwards and Dean with a little Kaiser on passing plays, because I don't want to see TJ Edwards on third and 9.
But
I don't want.
He actually did pretty good in coverage.
Yeah, but
not athletic. He's not an athlete, but he did do pretty decent in coverage. He made some plays.
Yeah, I just feel like he's just kind of a liability. If you have a guy that can cover, like if I know this guy can play in coverage, and this guy is showing flashes, it's like, okay, well, this guy can do it, and I know he can do it. So let's just go with that. Like, let's not try to gamble here. So that's what I would want. I'd want Edwards and Dean in a perfect world on rundowns, and then Dean and Kaiser White on pass downs, and then Davion, Kaiser switch out.
Yeah, so I'm going to project week 1 starters are Kaiser White at weak side linebacker, Nakobe Dean in the middle, of course Reddick on the Sam. And what I would prefer, just factoring in contracts, potential, age, upside, I would like to see Davion Taylor at weak side linebacker and Nakobe Dean in the middle. That would be, I think, the best scenario for the Eagles this year. I'm not saying it's the likely scenario, but I did hear that Davion Taylor really, really was turning a corner. He
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
to make some
Got injured.
plays. They were excited. Injury.
Yeah.
Then you got an opportunity to draft Nakobe Dean. You got to take him. So now Taylor's bumped down. But Kaiser White's only on a 1-year deal. He did get paid some money, so I think he will start week 1. But he might if all goes well, he's going to be the starter all year long, right? Like, he's going to play at a high level. We're going to be like, wow, no one else was going after this guy. This guy is killing it. He's a stud. Like, that's what we want. But I think ideally from like long term, it would be so great if we could get great linebacker play out of Nakobe Dean in the middle, Davion Taylor on the outside. This tremendous athleticism.
Yeah.
Massive upgrade. TJ Edwards is a great player, especially on rundowns. I think he should get reps on rundowns. He's really good in working in those confined spaces. I think he's just more of a depth and more of a rotational guy because he is limited.
Yeah, I mean, if you project, if I'm looking, 2-3 years in advance, he's not. If Dean stays healthy, I don't think he's going to beat Dean out, for years. So I do think eventually he'll be a depth guy. But
Dean's so smart too.
Yeah,
that's why I just think like, all right, if there's is there any linebacker in this draft that could beat out TJ Edwards week 1? Like there's a couple. I would think Dean would be one. He's not healthy, whatever. But I think he's smart enough. I hear he's extremely intelligent and got a lot of good football experience. So I'm expecting him to, and he's got more upside.
Oh yeah,
and he's
sure.
at the beginning of his contract, and
he can do everything. He's not just a run stuffer. He's not just an athlete. Like
and
Davion,
he can also blitz. He's the only guy that I've on our roster that I know of, and I'm talking about middle linebacker and weak side linebacker. The only linebacker I see that I know of that can rush the passer, that has blitzed at a high level, like an innate ability to time the snap and come rushing up the middle untouched, right up the A gap. And Gannon did that kind of stuff in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He would have Eric Kendricks in the A gap and Anthony Barr, and
that's because he had it though.
Come.
He had the talent, so he could do it. So hopefully that's what we see is, I have Dean now. I have, Reddick off the edge. I have Kaiser in coverage, so I can actually, and I have solid corners. I have 3 solid corners now, so I can bring pressure and I can blitz, and because for the longest time it's just been Eagles' typical fashion is like, well, we've had good lines that can get after it, but the typical fashion was like, okay, well, we're going to rely on our line. Hopefully our corners can hold up for 3 seconds and our line can get there. Now we have corners that can cover and hopefully a line. I hope Josh Sweat just keeps, climbing. And I think he will, especially with the addition of, like our line is deep. We've talked about that before.
Sweat is the prototypical. We should do a video just on Josh Sweat and his ceiling.
Yeah.
Because when we drafted him in the 4th round, I had Dame Brugler's draft guide, and I had to print it out. It was like this thick, and I took it, and I even got it spiraled at like an Office Max. And I was sitting there watching. We draft Josh Sweat. I didn't know who he was. I looked him up. I go to 247.com, look up where they were in high school, what kind of recruit they were. 5-star.
Yeah.
Like some people had him the number 1 overall player. I watched his high school film. I was like, holy cow. He read about his deal, tore his knees apart, almost had to get a leg amputated, I believe.
Yeah.
So bad of an injury. Goes to Florida State, doesn't really practice, plays sparingly because of the knees. But like, is an interesting prospect. It's a very interesting story about him because he hasn't had injuries.
Yeah.
He's been pretty healthy, and they do limit some things with him, but now they just paid him some money. And what I think about is when he went to the combine, guy tore up his knees, like used to be this great athlete, but now he's just a shell of himself. Maybe, I don't know what he would have, maybe he would have ran a 4.3 or a 4.4.
Right.
But he ran a 4.5 flat. And he's 6'5". He's long. Like if you took like a defensive end in a laboratory and like developed him, you want a guy like him. 6'5", sculpted, huge wingspan, 4'5", 40, jumped 40 inches.
He can bend.
He jumped 40 inches at the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
After he tore his knee apart.
Yeah.
That's all explosion, just straight off the ground. So I'm excited about him. His upside is really great. And as he refines his moves and stuff, like his upside just blows Derek Barnett out of the water.
Yeah.
You know, Barnett, you expected to be, maybe he's going to be this great technician and not the flashiest, biggest, most intimidating player, but he just gets it done. I get Brandon Graham, very good technician, you know, just strong as an ox.
Yeah.
You know, and also Derek Barnett. Some people don't want to hear this, but Derek Barnett, I'm excited we have him. He's our fifth, sixth, seventh best rusher. Maybe our eighth best rusher on our team, dude. That is tremendous. And he's still got a chance to be the next Brandon Graham.
Right. Yeah.
I want to go look. We should go look at Brandon Graham's career. And this is Barnett. This will be Barnett's 5th year. How many sacks did Brandon Graham have in his 5th year?
Yeah.
What happened after that? You know? So I'm not ready to give up on him.
Well, it's good. I think that's because we've been through this whole thing before with the Brandon Graham. Because like I'll be the first to admit it. I was ready. I was like, dude, get him off our team. Brandon Graham cannot play. Like he can't do it. We're trying to drop him into coverage. He's dropping into the flat, like doing all these things. He just looks like a bowling ball out there. It's like this guy can't rush the passer. And then a little bit of scheme change, a little bit of additions on the line, and turns out this guy can play. And he can.
I wonder what it was for him. They've asked. I wonder what it was. I know the scheme. I'm not talking about 3-4. Like he doesn't need to be an outside linebacker, but I wonder what it was. What was the struggle like rushing the passer as a 4-3 defensive end? Like did he need to get stronger? Was he in his own head?
Who knows? I mean, the whole head stuff is probably a case for everyone who struggles in the league, but I think the biggest thing was literally just the obvious choice was just scheme. Like, I just don't think they knew how to use him. They tried around and like didn't want to give up on him because he was an earlier pick, but like obviously they didn't do something right. But that happens all the time where you see guys, you're like, yeah, he just doesn't have it. He goes to another team and then they use him correctly and he puts up numbers and plays well. So
we got another guy on our team like that. I'm looking him up right now. I think Hassan Reddick's career started like that, right?
Yeah, he had a rough career. He's only had double-digit sacks in the last 2 seasons. You know, with Arizona, he and I think in the 2-3 sack range for like 3 or 4 years. And then I think he had like 11 and a half and then 12 or 12 and a half and 11, something like that. Like,
yeah. So listen to this, guys. Hassan Reddick also, drafted. He was a kind of a tweener. Wasn't sure how you would use him. So they draft this guy. They don't even use him right. 2017 his rookie year. By the way, same year as Barnett. Reddick got drafted. Reddick got drafted right before Barnett or after? I think it was before. I could be wrong. But Reddick gets drafted. His rookie year, 2.5 sacks. 2018, he has 4 sacks. 80 total tackles. So he was playing. 4 sacks. 2019, 76 total tackles, 1 sack. 2019, 1 sack. 2020, 12 and a half.
Yeah.
1 sack. That's your 3rd year in the league. 1 sack. Your 4th year in the league where you're competing for a contract. You get 12 and a half sacks. That could be kind of a red flag too. It's like, oh, you need to be re-signed.
Well, I mean, I'd like to look at like who was he playing with on the line? Because if maybe he was, maybe he was playing well, but just wasn't getting it because he's getting doubled or, whatever the case may be. Like, so it might be something along those lines. Like when did he have JJ Watt? Was JJ Watt playing in his prime? What year did JJ Watt come to Arizona?
I got Brandon Graham's numbers here just for kicks and giggles.
I'd be curious to see that. Like when did JJ Watt come to Arizona? And is that the year that we saw Reddick spike? Maybe because he's got depth around him now. He's got, Fletch, he's got Jordan Davis, Hargrave, Grant. Like maybe
then he had 11 sacks last year in Carolina.
Right.
One of the only guys, which I like that. One of the only guys who they have 12 and a half sacks on one team, go to a new team, 11 sacks. Different coach, different system. Maybe they use them the same, hopefully. Still very productive. But
right.
that's a good point. Your supporting cast matters, and we have a great supporting cast.
Yeah. I would say
it all himself.
I would say the best, like I was looking at depth charts the other day. There's like, obviously you're like, okay, Aaron Donald. He's better than any lineman we have. Probably the best defensive player. Well, is the best defensive player in the league. And I actually saw a thing that people were voting on. Is he the best player of all time defensively already? I'm like, hard to say, but we won't get into that because we can talk forever on that too. But Donald's better than any player we have on our defense. That's obvious. But as far as if you look at our starters, our depth, I don't think there's a team in the league that has what we have on the defensive line. I really don't. I don't think we're deep on the edges. We're deep interior, and we've added linebackers. We added a corner, so I've a lot of excitement towards our defense this year. But
here's Brandon Graham's numbers. It doesn't even look like that great, but he's never had double digits.
Yeah, I've never looked at Brandon Graham where I'm like, oh, but he does his job. He pushes the pile. No one moves him. He holds the end if he's on the end. He gets good pressure too. Yeah,
tremendous pressure. He's just very disruptive. So his rookie year, I want to pull up Barnett too, and I'm dragging this out a little bit, but Derek Barnett, or I'm sorry, this is Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham's rookie year, 13 tackles, 3 sacks, which is kind of weird. He barely played. He had 3 sacks. 2011, he had 4 tackles. That's it. No sacks. Didn't even get on the field. Maybe an injury, or maybe he just didn't play. 2012, 5.5 sacks. 2013, which was his contract year, he had 3 sacks. 2014, he had 5.5 sacks. 2015, 6.5 sacks. 2016, 5.5 sacks. 2017, he had 9.5 sacks.
Yeah.
Super Bowl year, 9.5. 2018, 4. 2019, 8.5. 2020, 8. Pretty late bloomer.
Yeah, very late.
I want to see Barnett real quick.
Yeah,
I'm hoping Barnett is a late bloomer.
I hope so too. The problem is we have so much depth at this point. He's not going to get a significant amount of reps.
It's so similar to Barnett, dude, or so similar to Graham. Like his sack numbers look a little bit better. He's got way less tackles, but we must rotate. Well, I would say way less, but
Graham moves inside a little bit, and Graham I think is just better. Like, I mean, how many times have you seen him just kind of like hold and then just kind of shuck his guy and make a tackle, or shuck the guy inside and hit the running back? He's just better, I think, at reading. Whereas Barnett, I think, is more of an actual pass rusher. I think Brandon Graham's just
Barnett plays the run pretty well too. Barnett's pretty good at the run.
I think between those, like, I think Fletch and Brandon Graham are our best guys to run.
If Barnett doesn't get any penalties this year, he's a solid player. I want to see more pass rush. I see some pretty good pass rush from him at times, but the numbers aren't there. His rookie year, he had 5 sacks. 2018, he had 2.5 sacks. 2019, 6.5. 2020, 5.5. Last year, he had 2 sacks.
Yeah.
Pretty mediocre, but could be a late bloomer.
Yeah.
But we paid Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
But still, like, if he could be a rotational pass rush guy, man, he's fresh and he's just a rotational pass rush guy to give Sweat a break, give Brandon Graham a break. You got Hassan Reddick. It's gonna be so exciting to see, man. I'm gonna be so pumped for the first game, man.
Absolutely.
All day. I'm gonna be ready. The game comes on, hopefully in a new house.
Yeah. Hope so.
Okay, man. So we've covered our two biggest concerns for this year's team, and then we projected the linebackers of what we think will happen and what we want. Any last words?
No, I mean, I'm pretty confident in the whole Dean thing working out. As far as health wise, I think the dude can play, and I've seen like him. He's running drills, so he's not injured. He's okay enough to run. But we've seen it before where we're like, oh, yeah, he's played in practice. He was good to go Monday, good to go Tuesday, and then Thursday it's like, yeah, he's not playing. And then next week we're like, all right, we'll go to next week though. And he's day to day. He's not playing this week either. So I hope we don't continue that trend where it's just day to day for 7 weeks. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in our ability to add. We added White and Dean. I think it's huge. And I think Edwards is going to be a pretty solid player for our defense this year, man. Especially against the run, early downs.
It's going to be exciting. Guys, we encourage you to leave some comments. What do you think about what we've just said in this video? Again, this has been the Bird Brothers, two lifelong Eagles fans living in Ohio. Looking forward to the 2022 season. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. We appreciate the support, and we encourage you to leave some comments. All right, guys, take it easy.